It was supposed to be a routine collection. Knee-deep in a freshwater marsh in eastern Ontario, a team of biology students was tracking amphibian populations as part of a long-term ecological study. Nets in hand, waterproof notebooks clipped to their belts. They had done this a dozen times before. But that morning, one of them stepped into a submerged sinkhole masked by algae. She dropped below the surface in an instant. It took her partner 2 seconds to react, and those 2 seconds meant everything. He pulled her out, coughing and shivering. Her waders had filled with water. She was panicked and cold but uninjured, but it could have gone another way. Later that day, they revised their checklist to include probing terrain before stepping and setting visual sightlines with teammates before moving into new areas. A near miss, but one that sparked a permanent change. Biology isn't always lab coats and microscopes. Much of the real science happens in the field, where terrain is uneven, weather changes fast, animals don't always behave predictably, and resources are limited. From field ecologists in tropical rainforests to lab technicians in biosecurity level 3 facilities, biologists work at the intersection of life, environment, and risk. In this episode, we're diving into the safety challenges faced by biologists. The researchers, students, technicians, and explorers who venture into the wild, wade through swamps, handle live organisms, work with toxic substances, and sometimes confront ethical and psychological dilemmas few outside the field ever see. Let's start with the obvious: wildlife encounters. In British Columbia, a conservation biologist tracking grizzly movements encountered a sow with cubs less than 30 meters from her observation post. The biologist had been downwind and unaware of the bear's proximity until it emerged onto the same ridge. She froze. The bear huffed, charged once, then veered off, likely a warning. The biologist had bear spray, but hadn't unpacked it yet. Afterward, her organization introduced a policy mandating that all wildlife researchers wear hip holsters with bear spray easily accessible and attend annual bear behavior training sessions. They also implemented a buddy system for all remote fieldwork. But danger doesn't always come with teeth. In Brazil, a rainforest ecologist contracted leptospirosis after handling rodent traps without gloves. The bacterial disease spread through animal urine in wet environments led to severe flu-like symptoms and liver inflammation. He was hospitalized for 2 weeks. Protective gloves, masks, and hand sanitizer were later added to every field kit. In Ghana, a bat researcher studying viral loads in fruit bats was scratched while taking a saliva sample. She had completed her rabies vaccination series years earlier, but hadn't received a booster. The scratch led to a precautionary PEP, post-exposure prophylaxis round, and several days in isolation. From then on, her team implemented strict PPE protocols, included fresh face shields and long-cuffed gloves, and reviewed vaccination schedules for all staff annually. Even plant life can pose serious risks. In Madagascar, a botanist suffered severe dermatitis after brushing against a plant containing calcium oxalate crystals. The rash spread rapidly and he had to be airlifted from the site after experiencing swelling and trouble breathing. Field teams began including emergency antihistamines and plant ID guides tailored to local regions. In the US, a graduate student studying poison ivy growth patterns developed respiratory issues after burning plant debris during a controlled clearing. The smoke carried urushiol, the same oil that causes skin reactions, and it affected his lungs. He required corticosteroid treatment and missed 3 weeks of fieldwork. Burning was banned from all future studies, and protective respirators were added to site requirements. Then there's the invisible threat: zoonotic diseases. The COVID-19 pandemic brought this into global consciousness, but zoonoses have long been a concern for biologists. According to the World Health Organization, over 60% of emerging infectious diseases are zoonotic in origin. This places biologists at a frontline intersection, often handling the very species that may carry emerging threats. In Thailand, a team studying pangolins contracted a novel strain of coronavirus not previously detected in humans. Though symptoms were mild, the incident sparked collaboration with international biosecurity agencies and led to rapid field-based quarantine procedures. Now let's talk about lab environments. In a level 3 biosecurity lab in Germany, a technician accidentally pricked herself with a contaminated needle while transferring samples of H5N1 avian influenza. The breach triggered a full lab lockdown and emergency protocol activation. While she did not develop symptoms, the psychological impact, fear, isolation, stigma, lasted far longer. She later advocated for changes in how post-incident care was handled, emphasizing mental health support. In California, a geneticist lost partial vision in one eye after a container of liquid nitrogen ruptured during a mishandled storage procedure. The explosion sent shards of frozen plastic into her face. Safety shields, better labeling, and mandatory cryogenics training were introduced. And then there's field logistics. In remote Alaska, a team studying caribou migration patterns became stranded after their bush plane couldn't land due to sudden snow squalls. With food running low and comms unreliable, they were rescued only after a NOAA satellite picked up their emergency beacon. Following the event, their university implemented stricter pre-departure logistics planning, requiring multi-channel comms backups and emergency cache protocols. In southern India, a tragic incident unfolded when a field ecologist was swept away and drowned during a flash flood while attempting to cross what had appeared to be a dry stream bed. Although he had checked the local weather forecast, an upstream dam release triggered a sudden surge of water that reached the crossing site in under 5 minutes. The team, consisting of both local and international researchers, had no prior knowledge of water management infrastructure in the area. The resulting shock and loss rippled through the academic and research community. In response, the university launched a thorough review and coordinated with regional hydrology experts and dam authorities to ensure that future field teams received briefings on controlled water releases, seasonal flood behaviors, and terrain mapping. The event also led to the inclusion of flash flood evacuation drills in pre-deployment training sessions. It's not all about natural elements. Social factors matter too. In parts of Central America, female fieldworkers have reported harassment from local authorities while conducting water sampling studies. In one case, 2 researchers were briefly detained under suspicion of tampering with infrastructure. After the incident, their NGO created official ID cards, established relationships with local governments, and paired teams with local guides to improve trust and communication. In the Middle East, a researcher was caught between escalating conflict zones while conducting a biodiversity survey. He was extracted by a partner NGO under coordination with international aid organizations. The experience triggered a complete review of risk mapping and emergency extraction protocols. And through all of this, there's fatigue, burnout, moral distress. Biologists often work in difficult, isolated conditions with limited support. Long days, ethical quandaries like euthanizing captured animals for study, exposure to suffering ecosystems, and institutional pressure to deliver results. All of it takes a toll. A 2022 study in the journal Nature Sustainability found that over 68% of early career environmental scientists reported symptoms of anxiety or depression directly related to their fieldwork. Many cited a lack of psychological support systems. The human cost of science is rarely discussed in public, but it's real. And it's why safety observations, formal or informal, matter so deeply. These observations aren't just for checking hard hats or gloves, they're about noticing when someone is too tired to hike safely, when a researcher's PPE doesn't fit correctly, when someone hasn't eaten or seems unusually quiet, when a boat is overloaded, when the protocols are being skipped to save time. One university added hydration sensors to field packs after a student collapsed during a heat wave. Another created a Field Buddy program that pairs seasoned researchers with newer ones. Some NGOs now incorporate regular mental health check-ins into post-trip debriefs. All of it starts with observation. So to the biologists out there, those tracking frogs in bogs, sequencing DNA, mapping coral reefs, studying pathogens, or teaching the next generation, thank you. Your work helps us understand the world. Just don't forget to take care of yourself while doing it. If you've had a close call, a safety tip, or a moment where someone's observation made the difference, share it in the comments. Subscribe to Safety Smart HQ. Let's create a safer environment for discovery, because the study of life as well as your own lives are worth protecting too.